I'd like to demonstrate for you now the crochet cast on finger loop style. And by finger loop, I mean not using a crochet hook. I first start by making a little loop, a slip knot. And if you've ever done this before, you know that you can just put your finger through the loop and snug it up. And I haven't done this in a long time, but my finger's a little, oh, there I go. I know how I want to do it. I can put my fingers through the loop, grab the tail, tighten it up, grab the tail, tighten it up, grab the tail, tighten it up. One of the things that happens is, a couple of things happen. One, your chain stitches can be uneven, and two, I don't know about you, but I tend to get this loopy, too big. So grab the tail, snug it up, grab the tail, snug it up. And you can make a chain this way. You can also use this finger loop style to do a regular cast on or a crochet cast on. Start by having your loop and a crochet and a knitting needle. And what you're going to do is wrap the yarn around the knitting needle, pull it through. Oops. Let me make the loop a little bigger. There we go, make the loop a little bigger. Pull the stitch through the loop, snug it up. And here's where you want to actually work to be even. Put the loop around the needle, snug it up. Not too snug, because too snug is going to make a tight cast on, and the whole idea of a crochet cast on is loose. I'm going to snug it up again. Let's try and keep this smooth and even and focused. So around the needle with the tail of the yarn, pull the loop through your fingers, snug it up, around the needle with your yarn, pull the loop to snug it up. Again, try and keep the chains that you're making at the bottom even, around, snug it up. This is basically how you do a crochet cast on finger loop method. It can be very useful if you're working in the middle of a row to create a cast on. You just make a loop and just start. So if you have your last bit of knitting, and let's pretend that's our last bit of knitting, you can just make a loop, a finger loop, put the yarn over the needle so we have just a twisted loop, and you can start right in the middle of a row doing a crochet cast on this finger loop method, which is perfect sometimes for a buttonhole or for something else that you'd want to have a single yarn cast on in the middle of a row. Very simple to do. So that's how you do. Now here you can see clearly where I broke the cast on. So you don't want to do what I did, which is take the last loop and put it on the needle. But this break, if you were doing it in the middle of a row, would be much less evident. So I'm going to undo this and go back to my last crochet cast on. Here's my last loop. And notice I took my last loop and I just put it on the needle, snugged it up. If I wanted to cast on 2, 4, 6, 8 stitches, excuse me, I'd have my 8 stitches cast on. If I wanted to use this as a provisional cast on, I could cast on the number of stitches desired and then make a couple of chains before cutting the yarn and ending the cast on. Then when I wanted to undo my provisional cast on, I'd know which end to start at. I'd start at the end with a couple of chains. So there's another way to do a crochet cast on, one that requires nothing more than your fingertips, and one obviously you see that undoes very readily and doesn't need a crochet hook.